Hi everybody. A very crazy day. I had gotten an anonymous tip at my email at glensretroshow@gmail.com, and in that email was an anonymous tip on a secret AtGames testing facility, and I was able to find its location, get in, and get an ATARI FlashBack 8. Now this is not the new FlashBack 8 with HDMI out, save game states, and so forth. This is the classic version, but it is the updated version to version 8, which does include some additional games. So now that we got this little guy, let's see what we have on here. Shh. Just between me and my subs. Let's go take a look. So here you can see some of my AtGames flashback collection. I currently have all the current ATARI flashbacks from the original. Now the original flashback and the flashback 2 and 2 Plus were not created by AtGames. They really started from the flashback 3 forward. So there was flashback 4, 5, 6, 7, and of course now we're going to be going to the flashback 8. Now with all that being said, AtGames has also come out with flashbacks for the Intellivision, which came out for 1 season, and the ColecoVision, which came out for 1 season, and they also make Sega Genesis flashbacks. And of course they have their portable Atari flashback, which I really do enjoy. It has an SD card slot in it. I've done a small little review on that, but so is Willie over at Arcade USA. But the Atari flashback portable is actually very, very nice. The Sega Genesis portable, I have one of those, and Sega Master System portable, which again are all very, very nice. But when you come to look at the Atari flashbacks themselves, for the most part, aside from the Flashback 2, now the Flashback 2 is a different animal. It's actually recreated hardware, and it does have the ability, believe it or not, to open it up, and it's actually solder points on the motherboard to add a cartridge connector. So that's as close as you're going to get to actually having a true console. But believe it or not, even though it's recreated hardware, it's not fully compatible, because there were actually some hardware defects in the original 2600 that kind of corrected for. But some games actually use those errors to make it work. But in any case, after the Flashback 2 and AtGames started producing their Flashback portables, for the most part, the machine's been unchanged. They've had versions with wired controllers, wired paddles, wireless controllers, but always still wired paddles. Now I do have one version, my Flashback 4 over here, which I actually had gotten from Sam's Club, that actually came with the paddles. And I've actually not used those paddles myself. It's been in the box, haven't touched it. But I hear from a lot of people saying that they actually make really, really good paddles. Now the joysticks themselves, I guess they're an okay alternative. The consoles, all of them will take real Atari joysticks and paddles and so forth. Now the joysticks that come with the flashbacks, some people find okay. They're all a bit on the light side for the wired ones. I've had a few minutes with the Atari 8 flashback here, which does come with wired controllers, and they're adequate. There seems like there's a little bit more play in them, so I may make some modifications to them, but they get the job done. I guess it's not an expensive thing. Now, I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of, I don't want to say negativity, but they have some issues with the flashbacks because they are very inexpensive. The emulation always not been spectacular, and they always feel you should buy the true, actual console to play Atari games. But that's not what these flashbacks are about. These Atari flashbacks are a way for someone to walk into a store and go, oh my God, I remember these Ataris. They'll spend a couple dollars, get a whole bunch of games. And that's kind of what AtGames has been doing. With every generation of the flashback, they have been adding more and more games to it. So this here is the standard version of the Atari Flashback 8. Now AtGames is actually making a high definition version, which will do 720p out, save states, and even more games. Now this one only comes with 105 games. I believe that the high definition version will have more than that, and also have more exclusive Activision games on it, and also an Activision specific one as well. But this one here is one I was able to get right now for a little unboxing and quick look at, so we're going to do that in just a moment. Remember, if you're really a die-hard fan, sure, go buy yourself an Atari. But then you still have to make a composite mod if you want to hook it up to a nice TV set and have a better signal out of it. This is already doing composite mod, and you know what? I'm actually fine with these little guys. It's a quick way to plug it in, take it somewhere, and play some great games. So let's open up this little guy right here and see what's new in the Atari FlashBack 8. Okay, I definitely like the box art here. I have seen the box art on the high definition version, which I like even better. But still a very nice box. It's got nice gloss on it. The cardboard is not going to be the strongest, but again, this is a very inexpensive, I want to say it is a toy. Let's see if we turn on the side here. You know, just typical mumbo jumbo stuff you're going to find on that side. One good thing I did notice here was that they had Good Deal Games. Oh, go over here. There we go. Good Deal Games on here, and they're a good manufacturer, some quality games for systems. So that's kind of neat. They were able to get some games on here. Now here's a quick shot of just some of the games. I mean, this is not the whole 105, but they're giving you a listing of some games on here, and there's some pretty good games that are listed here as well. Again, on this side over here, we get the basic FlashBack 8 console with 105 games built in, 2 wire controllers, an AC adapter, and an instruction manual, and a quick photograph of the console with some of the games. Now, this only includes 4 additional games over the FlashBack 7. So the high definition version will include even more. Let's open up this box here. And it's a pretty typical standard for the regular FlashBack console to get an instruction manual here. And basically it'll give you quick setup instructions and some very basic information on the games themselves. You probably have to really go on the web if you need specific information on what game mode and so forth. But it gives you basic information about the console, and that's all that really matters here. We have a little 5-volt adapter here, which all the FlashBacks currently use. And again, this particular version does not come with a wireless controls. This model here has the wired controllers, if I can get one out. And you know, they look the part. They do feel very light compared to a real Atari joystick, but again, the plastic feels substantial. It doesn't feel like it's a really cheap plastic. It feels substantial in your hand. The button has a good feedback. The joystick itself does not feel like a true Atari joystick, but again, it functions. The throw seems a little bit longer and a little bit more, I want to say, softer than maybe a real Atari joystick would be. But as long as it works. And again, you get 2 of those in the package, unlike the NES Classic, which had only given you 1, if you could even find one of those. And you know, that's another thing I want to mention real quick. You know, we have the new FlashBack coming out with high definition. You know, a lot of people are jumping all over these classic consoles these days because of Nintendo, but AtGames has been doing this for a lot longer with Atari, for sure. And you can see here we got the console itself. On the back we have the power adapter, and then of course you have your AV for your video and your audio, and your typical buttons here, which is going to be your power button, your start button, a power indicator, then your left and right difficulties, and your game select. You can see in the front of this console, at least I hope you can, there's 2 joystick ports, but there is no RF connector on here. So this one cannot accept a wireless controller. And my understanding too is on the new FlashBack with high definition, they're not using infrared anymore, they've gone to RF. So maybe that's why this one doesn't include any type of control at all. And just a decal at the bottom. So very, very basic. So let's just hook this thing up, fire it up, and see how it plays. Okay, so I have the Atari FlashBack Console 8 number here. I actually brought it down just to try out. I do have the drive-in controller, which I will try with the Indianapolis 500 game cartridge, or game ROM I should say. I have an original Atari 2600 joystick right here from, well, back in the day. Still works. And I have a pair here of original Atari 2600 paddles. These are not the AtGame paddles. These are actually my paddles, again, from back in the day. So we have the console hooked up right here. We have the joystick for the console here. And the cable length is pretty good. Definitely a lot longer than you would have gotten with the NES FlashBack, that's for sure. So we'll hit the power button right here. We get a nice little Atari logo. And we can see for the most part, it hasn't changed as far as the interface from any of the other FlashBacks. But if you notice, they did add a little ticker here telling you to find out more classics. You can go to www.atgames.com. Oh, I'm sorry, it's actually www.atgames.us to find out more. Now, I'll go through really quick the game list here. You can see them on the screen, all the games that are currently installed, and then we'll try a couple. So I'm just going to go on a page, wait a few seconds, and go to the next page. So obviously here's our first page here. and it says there's a total of 11. And you can see there is artwork on the side for each game, so you can kind of see what it's about. Now again, when you play these games, there are some that require a paddle. So I would definitely say invest in a paddle controller, because there are certain games that you just really can't play with a joystick. And you know, just going between back and forth, I'll go through it again later. But the joystick, when I press it, you know, it goes fine. There's no need to worry about it pointing if you're using the old infrared on the other flashbacks, if that's what you had. But see, we have a great game, Kaboom. That's a great game. I know my son Cole will be able to play that when we get to that game. And there are some original games, there's some homebrew games, as well as officially released games on the flashbacks. Okay, so we reached page 11, so we're at the last games, and there's another little tab at the end called About. So if we go into that and press, whoops, I forgot. Left and right goes the whole page, then you have to go up and down. They left that in the interface too. So I have to go down, click on About, and it's just a little barcode, and it says, for additional information about this and other great retro products, please visit us at the AtGames Flashback Zone at www.atgames.us. So you can take your cell phone, take a scan of this barcode, and I guess you'll find out more information. Press fire, we're going to go back. And again, the joystick itself is very responsive. Again, it doesn't feel like a true Atari joystick here, but you're talking something from the 1977 era to something that's in 2017, so we're talking 40 years. But you can see it is almost, it's not quite, it's maybe a smidgen smaller. I would say it's maybe almost 98 to 99% the size of a true Atari joystick. The Atari joystick does weigh substantially more than the flashback console, but the colors have worn away here. They've gotten the colors pretty accurate, and the stick height is also just a smidgen off, just a tiny bit smaller. But overall, I think it's a pretty good job they did here. And I'll just pick a regular game for a joystick right now. One of my favorites was always Asteroids. So I'm going to click on Asteroids, and you can see here, if you had an original Atari console that was not modded and using it just through the RF, you would not be getting a picture as crisp as this. But we'll start the game up. But again, the joystick is very responsive. It's what you care about. You can always plug in a real joystick if you like, but the one it comes with is fine. You don't have to worry about pointing in the right direction. Just point and shoot. Now what I will say is, there's no easy way to get back to the main menu. You do have to hit the power button, you have to shut it off, and turn it back on. So I don't know if that's changed in the high definition version of the Flashback 8, but in this version you do have to do that. And of course there's great classic games like Adventure, another game that as a kid I liked. And we'll go, start the game, we go. And that allows you battle. Already took my sword. There's probably going to be a dragon hiding. Oh, there's a dragon right now! But I lost him, haha! Good. Aha! Now I got a sword. And of course I'm sure the dragons will be hiding on me now. Oh, there's the white key, which I won't be able to get to without a bridge. I'd like to slay at least one dragon. They ain't hiding on me. Ah, there's a key. Well, since there's no, I went to, ooh, I got over here pretty easy. There's a magnet. But still no dragon. Well, we'll go take a look at another game. But again, graphically, just not having the RF cable and giving direct to composite's a better signal. I'm assuming that the HD version will look much superior to this. Another classic would be Centipede. Now, of course, in the arcade, this would use a trackball, and I don't have an Atari trackball to try to see if it would function with this. But even so, the original Atari trackball had a trackball mode and also a joystick mode, so it probably still wouldn't work. So, a pretty good version of Centipede. We'll go to another one. Let's do a game of Breakout. Try it with a joystick, and then we'll try it with a paddle controller. So you can use your joystick, but again, paddle games are usually pretty difficult with just a joystick. Yeah, I wouldn't have missed that with a paddle. So let's go try and see if a paddle will work with the Flashback 8 and Breakout. So I'm going to disconnect the plug-in, and we will untwist this little twist die here from my, well, that's my driver controller. I can't use that one. Driver controller will not work with paddle games. So I'll take my paddle controllers here, plug them in, and let's see here, not this paddle, there we go. So I will say right now, I'm going to probably restart it. There's a little latency with it. When I turn left and right, it seems like I do it. It could be my monitor though. LCD screens sometimes have a little delay. And let's see how we can play with it though. Let's do a this and this. Well, I will definitely say that the paddle seems to respond in a mushy way. I have to say that. It seems a little delayed to my response. I will try with other TV sets and get back to you on that. But when I turn, there is a delay between me rotating it. So I get up here my rotation versus what's going on the screen. And it's noticeable to where it's a little distracting. And it also seems like no matter how fast I move the paddle, it doesn't seem to keep up with the amount I'm giving it. And also you can see the paddle does not go all the way to the left. But again, it could be an issue with this particular paddle. So I'll have to get back to you on that. But so far in Breakout, I'm going to give it a little, it's not playable with the joystick at all. And with the paddle, it seems to be a little, the best way I can describe it is a little bit delayed in response. But again, that could be just my particular paddle. I'll have to get back to you and I'll do an update on the paddle in Breakout. So let me see if I can go to Kaboom and see if I can notice anything with that. And to select Kaboom, I'm going to have to go back to the other joystick, I believe. I don't think I selected any other way. No. So let me put my joystick back in. Go down to Kaboom. And once I plug in my paddles, I can press select on the console and pick the game. So I'm going to start a game. And the paddle seems to be a little better, so let's try it out. Hey Cole, do you want to give it a try on Kaboom?
No thank you.
Okay, well, then it's all on me. Here we go. will say again, using a real Atari paddle, it doesn't feel like you're connected. It feels very disconnected. When I'm turning it, there seems to be a delay. I honestly didn't notice that on the FlashBack 7 or other consoles, but I'm definitely noticing it here. I'll plug in one of the older ones and try it again. But it just feels like you're not... The paddle normally feels very connected to the game, and it feels very disconnected. Yeah, I'm going to say with the paddle here, it does not seem to be responding the way I anticipated it to. It seems very mushy and doesn't seem to be keeping up with me in my movements. And in Kaboom, as you know, you really got to be able to be precise with your movements. And I'm simply not getting that with the FlashBack 8 with a real Atari paddle.
It's hard. This is so hard.
How does the paddle feel? Does it feel like it's delayed when you're moving it?
Yeah, it feels like when you move it, then it moves.
Right.
It's very stiff.
Give it a try with the last guy. It's going to be real hard.
Yeah, it's way too stiff.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, young man. I appreciate your gaming expertise. Thank you.
Your seat's really warm. Goodbye.
So I'm going to go back. Let's restart the game. We'll pick another game out. So I want to go here and let's see what else we can find here. Well, we saw the Indy 500, so I'm going to go down to Indy 500 and we'll give that a try. It didn't work before, but I will try it. So again, if you press start right now, you're expected to use the joystick controls. Which you can't really play this game with a joystick. So I'm going to plug in an Atari paddle, the Atari driving controller, and see if that works. And it does not, as I expected. They have not changed the emulation in the game to work with a paddle controller. So we'll try a different game here. Now we have Frogger, so we'll go on to Frogger. Past Frogger. So you can see this is not the original Atari version of Frogger, but an emulated version of the arcade. The joystick responds very well. There's no in-game music, but the sound effects seem pretty good. Again, not a bad port of Frogger. Again, it's not the one from Parker Brothers. So, not bad. So, let's go take a look at another game. Gotta play some Missile Command. Joystick works well with this version of Missile Command, so that's good. So not bad. Let's go take a look at another game. let's see if we can find something here that we didn't try before. Start at the back here. Warlords, Waterworld, Wizard, Yard's Revenge. Let's see, we got this Tempest on here. Now, Space Invaders in the previous version was not the Atari version, but the Taito version. I have a funny feeling that's still going to be the case here. And it is. So this is a port of the Taito arcade Space Invaders. Pretty good version of it. The sounds are spot on. So not a bad game. Now they have Video Olympics listed as Pong, but this is in fact Video Olympics, not Pong. And again, you can use a joystick. You can see it going up and down. I'm going to put a paddle in and see if I get that same little delay with the game. I would say yes. As I'm moving the joystick, it's moving the paddle, I should say. It does not go all the way down. As you can see here, it stops. And when I rotate it, I rotate, then it moves. I rotate, then it moves. There's a definite delay in reading the potentiometer into the game, which I would say is going to be pretty distracting playing the paddle games. So that's kind of a little bit of a disappointment that using a paddle here is going to be causing those kind of issues. And I really don't remember those issues in the other Atari flashbacks. I'll have to go back again and try them out. Now, in the front of the box, they do list Pitfall as one of the games. Now, I can admit, I was never really a fan. I like Activision and a lot of games like Laser Blast. I was never a fan of Pitfall. But let's see if we can find Pitfall on here on the list. Ah, there it is. Went right past it. Okay. Again, the joystick feels fine. It seems very responsive. But the paddle, unfortunately, does not feel that way. Yeah. Again, I was never a fan of Pitfall anyway. I find this particular game kind of boring. I'm more into the action style games. So we have the M Network games like Astro Blast on here. Bowling, Breakout, we tried it already. Centipede, we already did through. Demons to Diamonds, another pretty good game. Combat 2, which was the sequel, obviously, to the original Combat that was packaged with the Atari. Circus Atari, another paddle game that I gotta know. I'm gonna try it with the paddle. I gotta find out if there's a delay with that too. You can do. I mean, here's a joystick. I mean, I'll try it once with the joystick, but I already know it's not going to fare well. Yeah, it's difficult with a joystick. So let's pull that out. Plug in our paddle controllers. And let's give it a try. Yeah, it's again, feels very disconnected. Now, you know, if you've never played the Atari paddle, it's your first time doing it, you may not have a problem with these paddles. But seeing as I'm so used to how that responds on real Atari, I definitely notice a delay in the response. Again, it can entirely be my monitor causing the issue, and I'll get back to you on that. But on my LCD screen here, there is absolutely a slight delay on it. I will actually see if my TV has a game mode. Some TVs you know, do have a game mode on it. So let's see here, picture mode. Yeah, I have a very old TV set. There is no game mode on it. So I will try this again also on a smaller monitor at the end and see if I noticed any difference with the paddle games. Okay, so we've set up the Atari FlashBack 8 here on a good old CRT, and we'll see if the paddles fare any better here, and see if the problem is actually my LCD screen and not the FlashBack 8's emulation of the paddles to the game. So I'm going to go to the first game we tried, which was Breakout. Okay, we're going to pick that game, unplug the joystick, plug in the paddles, start the game. Try the other paddle, so I'm doing a two-player game to see if there's any difference in the paddles, and make sure the difficulty's off. There we go. The paddle feels a little bit better, but it still feels delayed. It still feels like it's a little disconnected. Again, in slow movements it's not too bad, but also I couldn't get the paddle over all the way. And that same problem here. My paddle, as you can see, does not go all the way over to the edge, and here it goes all the way off to the side. Now that can be these. The potentiometers might be a little bit off and old, but a lot of people may already have these around or not have the Atari FlashBack with these paddles. Pick these up and they're not going to work as well. Now I actually think I have another set of original paddles. I'm going to see if I can go find them. And I do. I have another set of original paddles. So I'm going to unplug these and eliminate these guys as maybe being a potential problem. Okay, let's see here. Well, these are probably need to be cleaned. I'm not going to use this as a test because they're not working very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Atari FlashBack 7 and I'm going to get their version of the paddles, which I've never tried before. Maybe there's something with that that'll make it work better. Okay, now these are paddles that came with my Atari FlashBack 4 that I got from Sam's Club. I've never used them. So these FlashBack 4 paddles are going to be tried on the Atari FlashBack 8. And let's see how they fare. I will say the paddles, you can see they do go all the way. So that's kind of good. Well, I'll definitely say they do feel like good paddles. They feel a little bit stiffer in the rotation, and the button has got a nice click to it, but it still feels disconnected. There's a definite delay, even on a CRT. So again, if you've never played these games before, you may not notice it and you get used to it. But to anyone who has played an Atari with the original hardware, the delay is pretty noticeable. Can you get used to it? Probably, but it's just something to note. Okay folks, as you can see here, I plugged in the previous version, the ATARI FlashBack 7, and the paddle feels much better. There doesn't seem to be as much of a delay at all, if any, and it seems much more fluid. So I don't know what they changed between the 7 standard and the 8 standard, but the FlashBack 7 paddle feels much better than in the 8. The control feels a lot more fluid, and it seems like the paddle's going where I want it to go as I move it. So they definitely changed something in the emulation that didn't translate very well to the paddles. And I am not using the paddles that came with the ATARI FlashBack 4. I'm actually using my original ATARI paddle that I've had pretty much since 1977. I've cleaned the potentiometers many times, and this is playable. This feels a lot better. And so I did notice a difference between this and the 8, and the 8 definitely went down, at least the standard version, as far as how the paddle responds. You can see here I'm turning it, and it's responding as I would want it to. Now, just to make sure I'm not going crazy, I'm going to plug the FlashBack 8 in again and try the same game, Breakout, just to make sure I feel the difference that I just played the other game. So let's plug this in here, this in here. Breakout. Okay. You can see over here, again, my paddle does not go all the way over. There's a gap. And it still feels like a small little, tiny little delay. It's still noticeable. It feels to have something being sharp. It feels mushy, disconnected. That's the only way I can describe it. Between the FlashBack 7 and the FlashBack 8. And I would definitely say for paddle games, the 7's better, but you don't get games like Kaboom and a couple others that are on the FlashBack 8. So again, that's a little bit of a disappointment. It's like something was working fine and they broke it, and I don't understand what they had thought or done or not done in testing to verify that the paddle games are good. See, I have a gap where that ball can get down over there. And again, it feels very mushy. So at least I did a quick little test. Original Atari paddles worked fine in the FlashBack 7, and I know they've worked in the previous ones because I never noticed it before. But in the 8, with original paddles, it doesn't go over all the way. And even with the original paddles from the FlashBack 4, there's a slight little delay. You can see it here when I move my hand. You can see the paddle doesn't go the second I turn it. There's a delay, and that's a problem. Okay, everyone. At least I did another test, and I feel better about it. So, back to the video. So, what are my final thoughts of the ATARI FlashBack 8? Well, it's a little bit mixed. The cost of it with the wire joysticks is really not bad. It's pretty inexpensive. They do give you a lot of games on there, 105 of them. Some very fun games, and some games that you wouldn't play on the Atari, like the arcade version of, say, Space Invaders or a close rendition of Frogger that are on there. But the paddle games that are on here are a bit of a disappointment. Again, I've tried playing the older consoles. I don't remember as much of a disconnected feel with the paddles. But the FlashBack 8 here, I could definitely say I definitely felt it with it on here. I tried it on an LCD, I tried it on a CRT, I tried 2 different pairs of originals, and I even tried the Atari FlashBack 4's paddles. And although the FlashBack 4 paddles fared a little bit better, it still felt delayed and a little disconnected. But again, we won't get to a story. You don't have an original Atari 2600 and a Harmony cartridge to play all different games. You get an awful lot of games on here for the price. and it plugs right into a modern TV's component in. You don't have to worry about finding a coax connector or anything like that. So I still think it's a good value if you didn't have any of the other flashbacks before it. Now obviously I have quite a few flashbacks. Would I recommend going to this version of the flashback if you have one of these other ones? Maybe not so much, especially if you have most of the games that are on here. But again, I haven't tried out the Supreme Atari Flashback, the Atari Flashback HD, and that's a completely different breed from what I understand. It's got different hardware, it's got different software emulation. So although this guy right here still might be good for, you know, a quick gift for somebody or yourself, you just want to plug it in, play a couple of games, combat, stuff like that, it'll probably be okay. If you haven't played the paddle games in a long time, and I play them all the time, you may not notice the delay, and again, you might be fine with it. But for me, I would probably give this it's a toss-up, whether you want it or not. Out of maybe 1 to 10, I might actually give it a 6, only because of the way the paddle games were going, and to me, that's one of the things I loved about these was the paddle games. So, again, I hope to do a review of the Atari HD Flashback, but for right now, if you see this one in the store at a good price, I would probably still pick it up. But let's see how the new Flashback HD comes out in the future. Again, everyone, I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'm sure it was a pretty long one. I did a lot of footage here. But I do appreciate you looking. And remember, game on, subscribe, and like if you like the video. And please do leave a comment down below, as I do read them. Thanks for watching, everybody. Game on.
Sit for a good dog.